Okay, so to continue our coverage over the Dawn of X era of X-Men comics, we actually pick up with Hellions #1, another new title that came out in the Dawn of X era of X-Men comics. Now, with that being said, we actually pick up in San Francisco, where we pick up with a small X-Men team that has Jean Grey, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, Havoc. Now remember, Havoc is the younger brother of Scott Summers' Cyclops. He is Alex Summers. Now, we are going to focus on Havoc here. And the reason why, because this small X-Men team right now, they're taking down a group known as the Hellfire Cult. Now, do not get the Hellfire Cult confused with the Hellfire Club. They are two completely different things. Now, with that being said, once the X-Men team are able to take down most of the Hellfire Cult, you do have Nightcrawler and Havoc talking to one another. But while they're talking to one another, that is the moment they are hit with some kind of missile. Now, Nightcrawler, he is possibly dead or just knocked out, but Havoc is awake, but he is badly injured. Now, you do have some members of the Hellfire Cult actually walk up to Havoc and begin the process of talking to Havoc about how they're going to stab him more to make him bleed more. Now, this is the moment you have Havoc snap. What I mean is, Havoc begins to talk different, act different. He even laughs in a very strange way. And then you have Havoc use his powers on one of the members of the Hellfire Cult, to the point he is burning this guy's face off. Now, luckily for Havoc, Wolverine steps in to stop Havoc, because remember, on COPPA, they have 3 laws, and one of those laws is mutants are not allowed to kill humans. Luckily for Havoc, Wolverine stepped in to stop them, but when Wolverine stopped Havoc, that is when you have Havoc kind of turn back to normal, but he has no idea what he did. Now, after a couple hours have passed by since that moment, we actually jump back over to COPPA, where we pick up with the Quiet Council. Now remember, the Quiet Council is a group of mutants that come together to decide what they should do with certain problems with their new nation. Now, with that being said, they're having a meeting right now about what they should do with a certain group of mutants, because this group of mutants are usually known for causing problems for both mutants and humans. And so now the big question is, what are they going to do? Because these characters are usually not used much in Marvel Comics. I'm gonna try my best to explain every single character the best I can. Now, the first person I do want to talk about is Manuel de la Rocha, aka Empath. Now, Empath has been around for a very long time, since the 1980s. He first appeared in New Mutants number 16. Now, he was found by Emma Frost, because back then Emma Frost was the first person to use the name Hellions, because what she did back then was she formed a team of young mutants as a way to rival against Charles Xavier's New Mutants group. Now, with that being said, Empath has always been going back and forth between good and bad for so many years. Now, when it comes to his powers, Empath has the ability to control other people's emotions. Now, he can only use one emotion at a time. So let's say there is a group of you guys around him right now. He can only make every single person in that group happy. He can't have one person happy and one person mad. They all have the same emotion that he is trying to control. And so that is Empath for you right there. Oh yeah. He can also sense other people's emotions as well. Now, the next character I do want to talk about is Orphan Maker. Now, Orphan Maker has been around since the 1980s, and I want to say he first appeared in X Factor number 31. I could be wrong, but either way, Orphan Maker is a very interesting character, and this is why. Because he was first found by Mr. Sinister. Now, Mr. Sinister wanted to use Orphan Maker's powers for some evil things. But of course, when it came to Mr. Sinister, he realized that he could not control Orphan Maker's powers. Now, real quick, if you're wondering, hey, Fresh, what is his powers? Let me tell you what they are. We don't know. Literally, no one knows. The only thing we do know is that his powers are so strong, it could literally kill the entire planet. That is it. Matter of fact, Charles Xavier, somebody who usually tries to help all mutants around the world, when it came to Orphan Maker, Charles basically said his powers is a curse. Now, Orphan Maker is really hiding inside that armored suit, and that armored suit is a way for him to kind of control his powers in a way. But again, we have no idea what his powers is, but only Charles Xavier knows, Mr. Sinister, and the nanny. Now, if you're wondering why in the world his name is Orphan Maker, well, he killed his own mother to please the nanny, a robot machine mutant that kind of took care of him over the years and took care of other mutants. And matter of fact, we are going to talk about the nanny right now. Now, when it comes to the nanny is also another weird character. So she first appeared back in the 1980s as well, but she appeared in X Factor number 30. Now, when it comes to the nanny was a mutant scientist who was hired by an organization known as the Right. Now, she was happy working for the Right until she found out the Right was an anti-mutant organization, which of course is bad for her because she is a mutant. Now, with that being said, she tried to take her work away from the company, but of course they stopped her, and they stuffed her in one of her cybernetic robot suits, which is a small egg-shaped suit. And so she's in there. That's her suit that she wears all times. Now, when it comes to her being called the nanny, what she does is usually she goes around finding children who are orphans. And so, of course, if those children are being held by somebody who's evil or whatever, the nanny and Orphan Maker will work together to help save those children across the world. But yeah, that's the nanny, and that is Orphan Maker. Very interesting, strange characters. Okay, the next character is going to be Wild Child. Now, Wild Child has been around for a good period of time. Now, when it comes to Wild Child, Wild Child to me personally is a ripoff of Wolverine. Now, Wild Child first appeared in Alpha Flight number 1. Now, the reason why I say he's a ripoff of Wolverine because I felt like Marvel back then realized that Alpha Flight, a team of characters that fans mostly don't care for, is not going to sell well. So what if we take a ripoff version of Wolverine and put that character on Alpha Flight? Of course, it did not work. Now, when it comes to Wild Child, personally to me, he's kind of like a weaker version of Sabretooth. So take everything you know about Sabretooth and put it on Wild Child. Now, there is one thing that Wild Child has that Wolverine and Sabretooth do not have, which is that when it comes to Wild Child's mutation, it's basically turning him into an animal day by day. What I mean is his body appearance is slowly turning him into some kind of animal, but his mind is also turning into an animal's mind. And so that is why he's called Wild Child, because you never know when his mind state will be like an animal and he could possibly attack you, because when he is thinking like an animal, he is looking for an alpha, and so he most likely will attack you if he's trying to see if you are going to be an alpha person, a pack leader. And so that is why he's Wild Child. And so on COPPA, they have him locked up in a cage where they give him medicine that was used in the past as a way for him to be in control. But of course, sometimes he does not take that medicine. So you never know when he will be in control or not. Now, the next character we're going to talk about is Scalp Hunter. Now, Scalp Hunter has been around for a long period of time. Now, when it comes to Scalp Hunter, he was actually part of Mr. Sinister original team known as the the Marauders. Now, the Marauders back then were used for one mission, and that one mission was the Mutant Massacre, where basically a group of mutants killed a bunch of other mutants. And Scalp Hunter was one of those mutants. He led that team. And so with that, Scalp Hunter, usually for most X-Men characters, when they see him, they don't like him. And even though he's on COPPA, most people still do not like him because they remember the Mutant Massacre. Now, getting back over to the Quiet Council, after going over every single character that is going to be on the Hellions team, we do come to find out that every single character is being called here by the Quiet Council for them to decide if they're going to be exiled or just put in the pit, like where Sabretooth is at in the moment. And so with that, you kind of like, okay, these characters have done some bad things on the island, but are you really going to exile them? Now, right before they make a big decision, that is when you have Scott Summers realize that his brother is also being judged. So right now, the Quiet Council is trying to decide if they're going to exile Alex Summers as well, because what he did at the very beginning of our story. Now, Scott Summers is angry to see his brother on the stand right now being judged, to wonder if he will be exiled or not. And so you do have Scott Summers try to stand up against the Quiet Council, but the Quiet Council overrules Cyclops. But that is the moment you have Mr. Sinister say, wait a second. Yes, these mutants have done a lot of bad things over the years. They have done some bad things on our island. But either way, maybe, just maybe, what they need is to come together as a new team, as a way for them to work out their anger problems. Send them on dangerous missions for them to work out their issues, but of course, it could possibly change them when they begin the process of doing more good than bad. And so with that, it's Mr. Sinister saying, I am going to form my own team of crazy mutants, and hopefully I can rework their minds, a new kind of therapy. Now, Cyclops knows that he cannot trust Mr. Sinister at all. And so with that, you actually have Cyclops call up Psylocke. Now, with him calling up Psylocke, it's Cyclops asking Psylocke to be a spy for him, to make sure that Mr. Sinister is not up to something, but at the same time, to watch over Havoc. Now, fans of the Fallen Angels books that we did, Hellions is going to pick up where that book left off at, because with Fallen Angels being canceled, they moved Psylocke over to this book as a way to continue her story in the Dawn of X era of X-Men comics. Now, you do have Psylocke and Mr. Sinister right now briefing the new team about their first mission. And their first mission is to go to one of the old factories that used to belong to Mr. Sinister. Now, we kind of talked about this back in our Magneto videos, but when it comes to Mr. Sinister, when he made the Marauders, what he did was he had backup clones just in case they died out in the field. So for example, Scalp Hunter, who used to be one of Mr. Sinister's Marauders, if he had died, Mr. Sinister had backup clones of him just in case to use out in the field to replace him. But apparently this is Mr. Sinister telling his new team that they are going to go to one of his factories and basically shut it down, because there are a bunch of clones that need to go away. Now, with that being said though, you do have Psylocke remind the team that this team, the original Marauders, they are ruthless. They are crazy and they know how to fight and kill. So this new team of Hellions need to be ready. Now, with all said and done, we can tell that Mr. Sinister is hiding something. He's not telling his team something very important as they leave for their first mission. And the question is though, what is he not telling them? Now, To wrap up this video, we actually do jump over to the basement of Mr. Sinister's factory. But the big question is though, what's in the factory? But also, what is he not telling his team? Well, we go in the basement and we see someone we have not seen in a good amount of time. And that person is Madeline Pryor, the clone of Jean Grey, the one that was made by Mr. Sinister. On top of that, she's now known as the Goblin Queen. But the question is though, where has she been this whole time? Well, this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So guys, I'll see y'all next time. But also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below. But guys, I'll see y'all next time.